Well, police officers in the U.S. are rarely found guilty of killing civilians, but a jury did just that in the case of Dereck Chauvin. This was the scene tonight in Minneapolis, where hundreds gathered in George Floyd Square. Earlier today, Chauvin was convicted of 3 charges in the death of George Floyd last May. Floyd's murder sparking the largest civil rights protests in decades, including here at home. This was the scene in Rochester just days after Floyd's death. Hundreds gathering outside the Monroe County office building last June, laying on the pavement in silence for the same amount of time Chauvin had his knee on Floyd's neck before Floyd died. Tonight, local protest leaders spoke out about the guilty verdict.
Talk about how complex it is. Yes, it's a win for the family that Chauvin was convicted after, the horrendous thing he did. However, we have to maintain focus and make sure that we end, the interactions between black and brown people and the police officers to make sure that this does not happen again.
We have much further to go. I always say I don't think that we're going to break the chains of white supremacy and racism and implicit biases and all of these things in my generation. But what we are doing is loosening the chains so that when the generation comes behind us, it'll be a little bit easier.
For protesters and the family of Daniel Prude, today's events are also bittersweet. Prude died in the custody of Rochester police last year, but a grand jury refused to prosecute the officers. Atia Collins talked with Daniel Prude's brother tonight, and she joins us now. Atia, what was Joe Prude's reaction to this verdict?
Well, Joe Prude is a little disappointed. He wanted to see the same thing happen for his brother, Daniel Prude. And while he's still fighting for justice for Daniel Prude, he does say today's verdict is a step in the right direction and a move on the path forward to improving police accountability.
I wish I could have got that same justice for my brother.
Joe Prude and his lawyer Elliot Shields are pointing to the guilty verdict in the Dereck Chauvin case as proof that justice is possible for victims of police force.
In the same manner, police restraint, killed him, in the same way they did George, I'd have loved to have that victory under my belt right now, knowing that I already got justice.
Dereck Chauvin being convicted on these 3 counts shows that the same thing was possible for the officers that killed Daniel Prude.
Shields fought for months for the officers involved in Daniel Prude's death to be convicted, but a grand jury ultimately voted to not indict any of the officers involved. Prude and Shields are both still advocating for the city of Rochester to remove the officers from the police department, and the conviction of Dereck Chauvin is a glimmer of hope that police accountability will be upheld going forward.
It's a good start to show that, they is trying to make a change, but, like I said, I'd have loved to have that. I'd have loved that. I'd have loved that on my behalf, but it's something that I know I can't stop fighting for, though. I got to continue to go in and keep marching for my brother.
Overall, the pair hopes that today's verdict of Dereck Chauvin will help police accountability cases in the future. Reporting in Rochester, Atia Collins, News 8.
All right, Atia, thank you. As for Dereck Chauvin, tonight he is back in custody, his bail revoked moments after the verdicts were read.